Crafted here, and I'm tackling a problem on the old gray lady. If you remember from my last video series on making the special towing ball washers for my tractor, when I would engage these gears I get a tremendous amount of noise, which is very common with Atlas and Craftsman lathes. And I've been picking on this problem, and I've discovered that I had a huge problem. Now, these two fasteners I have out right now, normally this holds the bracket down to the gear case, and then I have my bracket that stands up here with my reversing switch, which by the way only runs in one direction. That's another project. Well, when I got the lathe and I snugged that bracket down to this, I noticed this bolt was stripped. And I thought, well, this is really only an anti-rotation tab. That'll be fine that that's stripped, because we've got another bolt here to hold it. Well, what I have discovered is there's a fastener that holds this shifting bracket here that's hiding behind this screw, or that's hiding behind this gear, that holds this whole shifter assembly to the headstock. And it's a pretty substantial bolt, and I have to lower the banjo here to show it to you. This bolt here, and this is really intended to take all of the load when you engage the tumbler gears with the headstock pinion. So there's a lot of forces when you engage these gears and load the lead screw pushing down on this. Okay? And in fact, when I really realized I had a problem is when it disengaged itself and made a horrible racket. Well, you can see when we tilt this down, we're actually pulling up on this. And that is why this screw was originally stripped. It's a 1/4 thread. And in this thing being loose and wobbling around, it has also dramatically weakened these threads. You couldn't even really get the bolt tight, and it just felt like it wanted to slip. So I really have stripped threads on both sides. So the question becomes, how do we repair that? So how are we going to repair this? Well, I decided to use a Helicoil kit. And this is a 1/4 thread. This is a 1/4 Helicoil tap. And then there'll be a wound coil that will go inside, kind of a spring that'll go inside that thread. And this will actually be much stronger after the repair than it was before the repair. This is probably a Zamac casting. It's definitely not steel, and gears and things are made from Zamac, so I expect this to be that too. So this will give us metal threads for the 1/4 bolt to engage with, and those will be engaged with an even larger diameter of the casting. And I've been involved in racing, and sometimes if there's risk of like a cylinder head stud pulling out of a block, they just do this preemptively, and it increases the diameter of the area that the fastener is engaging, which makes things much, much stronger. So when you see something that has helicoils or time certs in it, it's actually a sign of quality. So if I wanted to make everything on this lathe as good as it could possibly be, I would helicoil everything. But that's ridiculous. I don't need to be doing anything crazy like that. It's not a race car. I just need to make this repair. Now the problem is in how do I get these holes square? If I were to do this with any kind of hand drill, I'm inevitably going to get them slightly crooked. And then when I put the bolts in, I'm going to be pulling on one edge of the threads more than the other edge of the threads. So I need them to be straight so the threads are engaging with equal tension all the way around the helix. And in this way, I won't strip it again. Now I did some measuring, and my drill press happens to be, my 4 model drill press happens to be just the right height that I think I can move it over here and put the foot of the drill press underneath the lathe, and I can use the drill press to drill the hole. And let's see, what size did it require? I've already put the drill bit in the package. It's some odd, oh yeah, it requires a 17/64 drill. I can also use it to guide the tap so that I tap the hole correctly. And this will let me do these two holes as straight as possible. So that's the plan. Now, I checked the level of the lathe. I don't know if you can see the level way down there. Maybe not, probably not. But I checked and leveled the lathe. It was quite a bit up in the back. Because it's important that this be level. Otherwise, you know, my sliding the drill press over here and doing this operation is going to be pointless. So I've already leveled this. So I'm going to get the drill press over here, and we'll drill these holes and thread it for the helicoil kit. Alright, we have the drill press in place for the first hole. Now remember, I leveled the lathe. Each one of these feet has a bolt in the bottom of it that can be turned. But there's slope to a garage floor. So I had to level the drill press as well. And I just simply took a board and put a screw in all four corners and turned them until I was satisfied that it was level enough to suit me here. Here's my alignment for the first hole. And this is the hole that the chuck is closest to the headstock, and it doesn't hit, so that's good. But I don't want to get metal shavings down in my gears. So how I'm going to handle that is I'm going to put a paper towel in here. And I'm going to push that down and make sure it doesn't get sucked up into the drill bit. So I'm going to check the drill, make sure I have the correct drill bit. Looks like it should be 265 and 6/10. And I see 265.5, 266, so we have the correct drill. That's just to make sure I haven't selected the wrong one. Because no matter how many times you try, you can't drill that hole smaller. Alright, we have the drill speed set correctly finally. We have one square hole of the correct diameter. Alright, now we're going to tap the hole. Ooh. I have my solution. The proper tool would be a spring-loaded tapping guide, which I don't own. So instead I'm going to use a chamfering bit that I have. And this gives me a fairly decent square point to push with. I'll just use this little wrench here to turn the tap. Sometimes you have to be creative, but you can bet I will be ordering the correct tool. So the next time I do this job, I can do it more perfectly. This helps me keep the tap on the center line of the hole I drilled. Probably should put some lubricant in that. Let's go ahead and do that now. Better never than late. Is that how it goes? That'll also help the shavings stick to my cloth here. Looks like we're going in there good. I want to make sure I'm not running that into the gear. Now I've got a long ways to go. So we're turning smoothly. Once we get, this is a not a bottoming tap, but a tap that doesn't have a lot of lead in. So once we get about 3 or 4 turns of the tip of the tap, and we've got about 6 turns through the hole, then we've really cut the threads all the way through. I'll make sure I don't break the last thread off as I'm pulling this out of here. There we go. One tapped hole. Now I want to chamfer this. I've got a lip turned up here from when the original threads were pulled out. So we want to flatten this so that our part doesn't sit on here and weeble on this shaving on the top. See, I don't think this will get down there. Ah, yes it will. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit off of that. Find the switch. See what we got there. Let me drop that out of the chuck just a little more. All these projects I do, sometimes I have better tools for them. For instance, I have my Rockwell drill press over there unrestored. Much superior drill press to this one. Wouldn't be so wobbly if I was using that. There we go. Now that's a nice lead in. Take about half a thread out. I don't have anything standing up on the surface there. Got a mountain standing up over here. So we'll set up for the next hole. And hole number 2. Let this weeble wobbly drill press settle down. Just like that. Well, spring loaded one of these would be great. There's a little bit of lash in the mechanism that kind of works like a spring. But definitely going to get the right tool. I don't know, I think tapping's a little more exciting than watching paint dry. What do you think? Looks a little brighter than the Zamac that the gears are made out of. So it might be aluminum. I've got an upcoming project as all part of this straightening out my gear train here, getting it to sound and run cleaner. I'm going to be machining and installing bushings in some of these parts. So I'll get to machine some and see if it's bright inside. There we go. Take out about half a thread. Beautiful. Now we can clean that and get set up to install the helicoil. Now here's our helicoil insert tool. This has a little burr on the end which will catch this tab that's on the bottom of the coil. And right here at the tip of my fingernail is a little notch that's cutting that tab. It's a weak spot which will let us break it off. There we go. So I want to turn, we can see the thread over here. I want to turn it below the surface and then go about half a turn, it says. And then I'm going to back the tool out. And there's our brand new thread in there. So now we got a steel thread an aluminum or a pop metal part. Okay, now my handle wants to hit over here, so I think I'm gonna cut that off. I don't want to be forced to try to use the. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm trying to use the tool crooked. Now you don't want to push these down into the hole because you can cause the first thread to skip a thread. Nope, not acceptable. So look, we've jumped a thread, we've bent this helicoil. I say it's no good. Yeah, I can see it's about to fracture the tang off. Let's get another one. I'll run this in by hand, just to make sure I don't have a burr or something in there. Piece of debris. There we go. Now I got a clean start. And I think about that to be the right level. Perfect. Now I got to try to break that tang off. I think I can take this punch and bend the tang up and down a couple times. Let's try this one. Boy, they are pretty tough. Oh, I can't grab them with pliers. Oh, there we go. Don't want that piece of debris to end up in my gear train. There we go. That won't end up in my gear train. Got them both. Well, I think I'm ready to bolt some parts on. We've got a tricky bolt to get on here. In reassembling all of this, it's beautiful. Now I can hold this flush, hold this down, and when I push on each item I don't get a rock. Before I had a rock because of the damaged threads on the surface here. So I've got to sneak this nut back in here. I don't want the stud sticking too far through, so I've pushed it back with a screwdriver. Put a little bit of tape on my wrench, so hopefully my nut doesn't fall off. And see if I can get in a position here where I can see it. I've been able to get that started. Okay, now I think I can see what I'm doing. Hey, I think I got it. Remember, this was the fastener that was loose. I believe was the source of all my damaged threads. Now, turn these bolts in. back one first. Oh, wow. It's so nice to be able to turn the bolt and feel it tighten up. Yeah. Couldn't do that before. Now it's tight. Yeah, baby. For gears that are probably 50 to 70 years old, I think they look just fine. Now this particular gear has a wore out bore, and on my tumbler assembly it moves around quite a bit, as you can see. So this is one of my noise problems. And these are a little better, but they still got a little bit of play in them as well. So we'll be going all through this. I have a bushing. I plan to bore this gear out and press the bushing in to make it new again. Now I'll re-lubricate the gears. Just wanted to get any nastiness off there. These gears are actually in pretty good shape. They've got pretty good flat spots on top of them. Some of my other lathes are wore more. Probably when I go to make my first gears, I'll probably make some of these as my learning experience. Just in case we've lost a little lubricant out of here, we probably have. There we go. Got it started. Well, this uses quite a large wrench for a relatively small fastener. We don't want to get too crazy with the torque here. Find a way to get on it. Let's get this gear out of the way. There we go. Put this gear back. When I get this back together, we're going to do a little test run for sound. But remember, I'm not done. I still have at least one gear, if not two, that I would like to bush in order to get rid of play. Like, look how wobbly this is. That's terrible. think we are ready to do a test. Let's engage these gears. A little bit of play. I think that's better. Still a little grumbly, in my view. This is a little too much play up here, which means I need to adjust the gear face, or the index face here. This plate here, right here, has holes in it that index this shifter. And if we can adjust now, I've got it in reverse right now, but look, I can move that. I've got the plate loose. This plate's moving up and down with the shifter. That lets us set the gear lash, which I'm going to set it. We don't want gears to be together hard. They need to have a little bit of play. So I'm going to set it right there. Everything's got a little bit of play. Let's see what it sounds like. Not bad. Now we put it in forward. Now I got what feels like a little too much play up here, so maybe I need to split the difference some. Okay, that's a little less play up here. Reasonable amount of play downstairs. Now I'm convinced when I get the bushing in here, and this is holding center better, some of my noise will improve as well. Well, fantastic. That concludes this project of fixing this loose forward and reverse tumbler assembly. And of course it was loose because I had some stripped bolts here, and that was caused by the mount being loose over here. So, you know, all of these old lathes, when you get them, are going to need things. Don't expect that you're ever going to get one that's just going to be perfect, ready to rock. That's really not going to happen. You're going to find things that need repaired. And like I didn't catch these stripped bolt holes here when I bought the lathe. But it's no big deal. I can fix it. I'd be ashamed if I couldn't fix it. You can fix it too. So what have you done lately? Get out in your garage, work on your tools, get a tool, start shopping for a lathe. These things are fantastically handy. Can't wait to make some more stuff on my lathe. So some future projects are going to be bushing some of these gears, and this cover here is loose, so it doesn't fit the shaft properly. So evidently there was a bushing or some kind of collar or something in there. So I'm going to manufacture that. This is Crafted saying, get some grease on your hands.